Hey, how you doing? It's Christmas Eve. I know. We're getting there. 23rd of December, 7:27 in the morning here in western Iowa where it's warm. It is really warm. It's like freezing outside right now, 32 degrees, which is like our average high for this time of year. So we're off to a warm start, and not just us here in Iowa, but much of the plains into the Midwest, and look at Michigan. Some places near 40 degrees warmer than it was this time yesterday. It is cold in the Northeast. We'll show you those temperatures, but a little bit cooler than yesterday and much cooler than yesterday. Northern Rockies. Here are those temperatures in the Northeast. Single digits, even single digits below zero to start your day. Teens in the mid-Atlantic, and then 30s for parts of the Southeast. Warmer when you get back into Texas, and even those 40s getting all the way into Iowa through Missouri, the southern plains, and 40s northwest along the coast, 40s and 30s inland, 50s California down to the desert southwest. Those hazards today, a little bit of fog this morning, North Dakota, Montana, little 2 counties in Minnesota, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico with some fog, southern Oregon. Wind issues on the west coast as another storm approacheth. So we'll see some gusty winds all the way from Washington through Oregon, California, Nevada. But some snow in the mountains there, Sierra Nevada, winter weather advisories, even some winter storm warnings for you. A little bit of a winter weather advisory near Yellowstone in Wyoming. And then you get to the East Coast, and it's winter weather advisories for Wisconsin and Michigan, even down in West Virginia, Maryland, the nation's capital, a little bit of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and of course up there, upstate New York, over to Vermont, New Hampshire, parts of Maine. In fact, this Midwest ice today, perhaps. The next 24 hours of ice accumulation is not going to be a lot, but southern Michigan and to northern Indiana and parts of Wisconsin towards Green Bay could be a glaze of ice for you. And then tomorrow, maybe some severe weather all the way from Dallas to Houston over to San Antonio, including Austin and Waco. Could see some large hail damaging winds, the main threat. Even some thunderstorms along the northern California coast, say from all the way from San Francisco all the way up to Olympia, Washington. 48-hour precipitation with that severe weather in East Texas into Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri could see inch and a half of rain for some. It's even more for the California coast. 2.5 inches of rain, perhaps, southern Oregon, northern California coast. And where will this fall as snow? Well, mostly the Great Lakes into the east. And so this is your 48-hour snowfall ending Christmas morning at 7 a.m. So all of these areas, I would say, are probably going to get a white Christmas. So all the way up there in the Northeast, parts of the Great Lakes, Wisconsin into Michigan, northern Michigan at least, and the mountains of the West. But there's your smiley-faced Idaho. So the Treasure Valley is going to be wet, it looks like. A lot of snow there for the mountains of California, the Sierra Nevada, and also the Cascades in northern Washington. Surface for today, there's your ice into Wisconsin, into Michigan, a little bit of Pennsylvania, perhaps snow up there in New England, rain and snow in the west, and thunderstorms perhaps, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and the Gulf Coast. Tomorrow, we see a cold front moving through the Midwest, so slightly cooler for highs here in Iowa, some rain further south. There's your thunderstorms in Texas with that cold front moving through the eastern part of the state. So that's where you could see your severe weather, Dallas to San Antonio to Houston, maybe approaching Shreveport, Louisiana. Still rain and snow in the Northeast, even some ice maybe. West Virginia, Washington, D.C., Maryland, Pennsylvania. Snow further north. The West, there's a big storm moving onshore. So you've got rain all the way down to Southern California, northern Arizona, a mix further north. Could see heavy snow, Sierra Nevada, California, and parts of Oregon. Heavy snow possible. On Wednesday, heavy snow in the Cascades of Washington, some of the mountains in eastern Oregon, also northern California. That rain and snow moves into the Four Corners, but still back towards the northern Rockies. There you see thunderstorms, Kansas to Louisiana, rain for the Midwest down to the southeast, showers for Florida, and a little bit of a mix still hanging in there in Pennsylvania. As we go to our GFS computer model, starting at 6 a.m. this morning, here's that snow in northern Michigan, rain and snow, Idaho, Oregon, Washington. And as we go through time today, we see a little bit cooler air moving further south into, say, here in Iowa. It's not going to be as warm as yesterday, but still warm. Scattered snows moving into western Wyoming. And then we see the snow moving into the eastern Great Lakes here with some trailing rain showers, Pacific Northwest. Seeing that next storm approacheth. This gets us through tomorrow. Are approaching tomorrow, I should say. This is midnight tonight, so heavy rain, Northern California, Southern Oregon, some snow coming down, Pennsylvania, up through Maine, and some thunderstorms there in Oklahoma, moving into Arkansas. This gets us into tomorrow morning. This is noon tomorrow, Central Time. And you see that big storm system moving in the west. Some heavy snow, Sierra Nevada, and up into the Cascades, even the Siskiyous here. But rain for lower elevations as, again, tomorrow's Christmas Eve. So we have some thunderstorms in Texas, Arkansas, and maybe a little bit of rain there for the mid-Atlantic. As we get towards midnight, Christmas Eve, we see this is Santa time, midnight. Rain in Boise, snow around. Snow down here in Nevada, moving into Utah. Some snow in the mountains of California. Here's pretty heavy rain. We were talking about this yesterday too. Shreveport through Arkansas, through East Texas. To start the day on Christmas. Here we go, Christmas morning. Snow flying in Utah, kind of magical. We have rain from Missouri through Louisiana. As we go through Christmas Day, that rain moves into Mississippi, then Alabama. Snow in Utah, moving into northern New Mexico, northern Arizona, southern Colorado, well, the Four Corners. And another storm moving into the Pacific Northwest. A lot of wind, a lot of rain along the Oregon and Washington coast. And we see snow moving into Colorado. This is Christmas night. Heavy snow for the Cascades, though. And heavy rain with some wind along the Oregon-Washington coast and a few scattered showers here in the southeast. As we get to, this is midnight, Christmas night. As we say goodbye to Christmas, some snow for northern New Mexico, southern Colorado, snow, eastern Oregon, eastern Washington, and the Cascades, rain and wind, northern California all the way up the west coast. Then as we get into the day after Christmas, this could be snow, even the lower elevation. Snow levels dropping, let's put it that way, for Idaho. Last time I looked at Boise's specific forecast, they were still keeping it rain, but man, the GFS is still showing snow here. So I would refer you to your local forecasters if you're in Boise. Meanwhile, rain along the Oregon and Washington coast. Some thunderstorms, Oklahoma into Texas, day after Christmas. And then as we move, what is Boxing Day? That's the word I'm looking for. Thunderstorms as we're getting to Boxing Day evening for Kansas into Oklahoma and Texas. This looks like a pretty nasty line of storms, maybe severe, I don't know. Some rain along the Oregon-Washington coast as another system moving inland. And then we get through, here's where this is midnight the 26th. This is moving into the 27th. That's definitely rain, Boise, but definitely snow in the higher elevations. Rain for Omaha, for Hastings, moving into to Iowa, northern Kansas, and into Missouri. It's rain this time of year. That's kind of weird, but there it is. Rain. This is Friday morning, 6 a.m., starting to clear out by Friday afternoon. Meanwhile, snow inland in the northwest, some thunderstorms down here in the southeast. That rain moving all the way into Minnesota. Remember last year, not much snow, a lot of rain for Minnesota. I don't think we're going to hold on to this warm pattern, but we're going to have to get through it before we get to a cold January. Going through time now, this is Saturday. Saturday, another system moving inland for the Pacific Northwest, rain and snow. Heavy rain along the coast. Showers and storms into the Midwest, down through East Texas. Even the Sunshine State getting rain, of course. Moving into Saturday, this is Saturday night, moving into Sunday. Another system for the Pacific Northwest, heavy rain and snow. Some heavy storms here Sunday morning for, say, near Memphis, down through Mississippi, up into Kentucky, even parts of Indiana, but the rain's heavier further south, moving into Alabama. It looks like another line of storms. Moving into Georgia as we get through Sunday evening, heavy rain for the southern Oregon coast, northern California coast. As we've gotten through the weekend forecast for you, more rain and snow for the Gem State, more snow moving into western Wyoming, and more rain moving into the mid-Atlantic. Now, as we move forward in time a little quicker, we're starting to see some cold air move south in the west as we get into the first day of the year. And so that's interesting. Look at this. Dropping all the way into eastern New Mexico, West Texas, the Panhandle on the 2nd of January. So will we see snow, Lubbock? Maybe. Maybe. And then that storm lifts northward into Iowa and even Kansas, getting some heavy snow. Some snow here in western Iowa for the 4th. Ahead of that, it's rain. So interesting pattern change as we get into January. And we could see some of that cold air dropping south, snow in here, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri by the 6th. If this comes true, we're getting pretty far out there. But I just wanted to show you that pattern change. We're going to bring in some much colder air as we start January. We'll keep you posted, of course. Highs today, pretty high. 60s, 70s, Texas, the desert Southwest into Florida. You have to go way up into New England to see highs in the 20s, way up into the Dakotas to see highs in the 20s. So low temperatures tomorrow morning, not as cold northeast, but still some teens. And then 20s as you head into the mid-Atlantic, a few 30s hanging in there in the southeast. A little cooler tomorrow morning here in Iowa, tomorrow morning in the 20s instead of 30s. And it looks like colder down all the way down to, say, Clovis, New Mexico, 30 degrees. 40s and 50s for the Pacific Northwest all the way down to the Southwest. Highs tomorrow, not as warm, but still warm for Iowa, 40s. We still have 60s and 70s in Texas down into Florida. 60s for much of the southeast, even some 50s. Tucson, which has seen a couple record highs in the last few days, mid-70s, along with Phoenix, maybe upper 70s. Christmas Day, a little cooler for the Rocky Mountains. You saw that change from tomorrow to Christmas. A little cooler in the west. And then, 40s to near 40 here in Iowa. Still cold in the northeast. It's going to be a white Christmas up there. Also, the upper Midwest should see a white Christmas with temperatures in the 30s and warm down south. Thursday, a little bit warmer in the plains into the Midwest as that warm air starts to bubble up. A little cooler in the west. So as those temperatures get knocked down for Phoenix and Tucson. And a lot more 40s in the northwest to near 50. And then as we get into Friday, even warmer, moving into the Midwest from that warmth in the plains, southeast moderating more too. Fewer areas, let's do that. Fewer areas with highs below freezing in the northeast and the northern plains even. We have 40s all the way, well, above freezing at least all the way to the Canadian border. Saturday, still warm. Sunday, even warmer before we cool off in January. But man, it's going to be warm the rest of the year, it looks like. Your 8 to 10 day starts December 30th, goes to January 5th. We're starting to see some hints of some cooler air in the northwest, but still much of the country either near or above average. Same for Alaska, same for Hawaii. Oh my goodness, I need another cup of coffee. 8 to 14 day precipitation looking above average for the northern tier and getting below average for the west. So they'll get a chance to dry out perhaps a little bit if this comes true. White Christmas. I mean, we're getting so close. This is really starting to dial it in. This is the European ensemble. This is the Canadian ensemble. This is the GFS ensemble. So they're all pretty similar. I think the European, first of all, you have a little bit more resolution here, but a lot more snow in the mountains in the west on the European, with the smiley face in the gem state. Canadian, and the GFS is kind of the one I like. So still a white Christmas. Northern Plains, upper Midwest, up into the Northeast. But man, look at those places that you would normally see a white Christmas, not having one this year, which is like most of South Dakota, most of Wyoming, or at least the eastern half of Wyoming, parts of Montana. So it's kind of crazy this year. But we're going to fix it in January. Cold air is coming, and we'll have more details for you as we get closer. We'll show you how much colder we'll get when we start to really dial that in. So thanks again for tuning in. Really appreciate you, and we'll update you again tomorrow right here on the Weather Mic.